Although 2016 came with its fair share of political and cultural fiascos, it was surprisingly an incredible year for movies. Looking past the dime a dozen superhero films, remakes, and sequels, this year possessed incredible one-of-a-kind movies that proved to be a noteworthy testament to the medium, whether their story was unlike anything we've seen before, or improved upon well-established genres or ideas. These 10 movies gave me new hope and inspiration for the art of cinema, and how it'll hopefully continue to progress to new heights of creative storytelling and effort. Without further ado, here are my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. Master of South Korean cinema Kim Ji-woon returns to the screen with a political thriller set in 1920s Japanese-occupied Korea, starring multi-talented actor and all-time favorite of mine, Song Kang-ho. Song plays a Korean police captain tasked with weeding out the leaders of his country's resistance movement. In doing so, he is inevitably forced to face the duality of securing a safe position with the Japanese government and betraying his own country. Famous for the morbidly beautiful and my favorite horror movie, A Tale of Two Sisters, Kim Ji-woon's attempt at creating a suspenseful cloak-and-dagger tale of espionage succeeds on all levels, with special regards to cinematography, editing, and music. Ji-woon's careful attention to color and framing immerse the viewer in shining shades of gold, black, and red that not only accentuates the wartime production design, but paints the fast-paced and clear-to-the-eye action choreography with splendid visuals. Meanwhile, the convoluted cat-and-mouse storyline is complemented by a repetitive guitar string note, the dramatic revelations reach great heights with operatic orchestra, and the end credits finish off with an electronic beat that sounds cool just for the hell of it. Although its story of political and military subterfuge may tie itself in an inevitable knot with the amount of characters, motivations, and details, The Age of Shadows is a satisfyingly tense thriller that not only comments on honor and loyalty, but gives American action movies a run for their money. Don't Breathe forces you into a claustrophobic fight for survival as 3 young adults stuck in decrepit Detroit decide to steal a large fortune hoarded by a lone blind man and find themselves trapped in his home. It's very satisfying to see a horror movie that, despite being in the mainstream market, possesses a story that is solely focused on atmospheric dread, tension, and an enemy that is simply a blind man and your inability to not make a sound. The score especially emphasizes on suspenseful drones mixed with sound design that possesses clanging metal and creaking wood to accentuate the motif of sound is the enemy. There are several moments where the camera is fluidly on the move, just as the characters are as they quietly traverse through the house. In particular, when the characters first break into the house, the camera travels throughout every room, corner, underneath beds, anything of significance that allows the viewer to become fully acquainted with the world they're inhabiting. Almost as if you have a complete layout of the house in a video game and know exactly where certain weapons and hiding spots are, even though the characters do not. There are plenty more great attributes to Don't Breathe, though I can't express them without spoiling the many incredible turns of the story and the themes present within the conflict. Don't Breathe is a film that can only be seen to be truly experienced, and is a fantastic addition to the rare modern-day thrillers that leave you with an awful feeling in the pit of your stomach. If you want to have a double feature of unforgiving cutthroat cinema, have it be Don't Breathe and the next movie on my list. Green Room is a relentless thriller that steals your hope away and leaves you abandoned on a blood-covered floor. After an indie punk band gets a gig at a run-down bar populated by skinheads, they end up trapped in a wrong place, wrong time situation and must do whatever they can to stay alive. Once again, A24 distributes a film whose story is absolutely worth telling. A story that is painful and unforgiving as you watch these young 20-somethings whose only concern in life is playing music and siphoning enough gas to get to their next show face a do-or-die scenario where every choice could be your last. As much as I had hoped for some cliched moments of hope or inspiration, the film rightfully snuffs those out and keeps you grounded in the reality of being trapped and facing impossible odds. Green Room was a pleasantly gruesome indie surprise during the spring, and it's certainly a prime example of a limited release film that deserves more support. A movie whose story is worth your time, whose talent is top-notch, and whose poster actually shows some artistic creativity. And lastly, it is a terrible shame that I will not see Anton Yelchin in any more movies. He absolutely shines in this film. 2016 turned out to be an exceptionally amazing year for animated films, and first-time director Claude Barras gave us one of the best with his stop-motion, bittersweet coming-of-age tale about the orphan boy Zucchini and the friendship he finds in others like himself. It's a perfect masterpiece of not only stop-motion animation, but in the realm of animated children's movies that possess compelling and intelligent stories. The movie not only perfectly tells the story of the titular character, but of several orphans who have been abandoned by their parents, either through harsh circumstance or unfortunate actions. Personally, it is spot on with its portrayal of the confusion, fear, and hope a child feels when faced with the mindset that no one is left to love you. And yet finding love and safety can still be achieved by finding kindred spirits. The film is capable of keeping you entertained and emotionally invested in every scene without a single dry spot. My Life as a Zucchini has made a great stride for the medium, and is only the first of 3 animated films on my list that were mature and intelligent enough to tell stories that inspire and educate kids, as well as reflect our own personalities, dreams, and societies. Within 2 years, the ever-creative stop-motion animation team Laika returns in full form with their best movie yet. A fairy tale set in ancient Japan that revolves around the boy Kubo and his quest to obtain his father's sword and armor after his village becomes attacked by magical forces. The film takes a tale that one could easily tell to their children and uses the filmmaking art form to create an incredibly grand yet quite simple portrayal of that tale come to life. It also possesses the fundamental coming-of-age elements that are found in some of the most impactful and memorable animated films to date. A character lists heartache, suffering, and death as terrible drawbacks of reality, which is exactly what the story is infused with and is exactly what Kubo fights for, making for an impactful message. 2 of the strongest themes present in the movie is the emphasis on the power of storytelling and of memories, and how the 2 coincide with longevity, inspiration, and life.
Pay careful attention to everything you see and hear, no matter how unusual it may seem. If you fidget, if you look away, if you forget any part of what I tell you, even for an instant, then our hero will surely perish.
Because of this, Kubo and the 2 Strings encapsulates how I've felt about movies my entire life. Filmmaking is a masterful form of storytelling and should be honored and used to invoke legitimate emotions from those ready and willing to see and hear. Kubo not only achieves this because of its imagination and beauty, but because it simply tells an incredible story during a time when so many films have lost that power. And it is that combination of artistic passion and inspiring storytelling that left me weeping in appreciation at the end. With its clever and emotional subtext, perfectly imperfect stop motion, and unforgettable power, make no mistake when I say that Kubo and the 2 Strings is Laika's new masterpiece. Rounding out the rest of the amazing animated films this year, with an honorable mention to Finding Dory, Zootopia's story about a passionate bunny aspiring to be a police officer joining up with a fox conman turned out to be one of Disney's best and most creatively written films yet. Just like the previous animated films on my list, Zootopia thankfully wasn't afraid of telling a story with actual thought, consequence, and relatability to our own world. Zootopia does this by representing the prejudices of race and fear of society in their own world, not to merely comment on societal issues, but to illustrate the heartbreaking reality of them and serve as a cautionary tale. Likening the wisdom of Aesop's fables, having our actions depicted in the form of animal counterparts helps us discover the morality we have stripped ourselves of and to ultimately pinpoint the error of our ways. As said in the movie, fear always works, but it's this way of thinking that Judy Hopps, who may be the most well-written and courageously inspiring character Disney has created, fights against in the hopes of making the world a better place.
I implore you, try. Look inside yourself and recognize that change starts with you.
Taking place after the surrender of Germany in 1945, 14 young boys drafted during the final days of the war, reminiscent of Bernard Wickey's The Bridge, are tasked with disarming 45,000 mines hidden under the beaches of Denmark before they can be sent home. A simple premise based on actual events during the aftermath of World War II makes for one of the most powerfully cinematic and skull-rattingly suspenseful movies I have ever seen. With almost no score and precisely careful attention to sound design, you are constantly hoping hoping for the best, yet anticipating the worst as you watch these boys slowly crawl across the beach, hoping each mine will bring them one step closer to home. However, each audible clunk under the sand also spells potential disaster as the boys nervously disarm each mine. The tiniest shake of a hand or sound of metal is enough to get your heart racing and stopping all at once. The film is a harsh coming-of-age tale as we see the youth and innocence of their characters crumble under stress, malnourishment, and terrified madness, all of which is increased tenfold by their Danish sergeant who harshly oversees their task and brutally reminds them that German lives are now meaningless. Land of Mine is not only one of the best movies of 2016 I've seen, but is also one of the scariest movies of all time, with pinpoint cinematography capturing the intensity of the boys' fears and sound design that keeps your heart on edge and your hands nervously over your ears. Land of Mine is truly terrifying in its execution, and it will be an awful surprise if it doesn't win Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars this year. I find myself at a loss for words for where to begin to describe this film. Starting with the music, it's easy enough to create a synth-based soundtrack, but it's another feat to create one that I instantly desire once the film is over. It's filled to burst with mesmerizing drones of dreamlike cadence and sinfully sweet synth rhythms that smother your ears to the point where you can hear colors. Director Nicholas Winding Refn and cinematographer Natasha Breyer waste no time in their effort to make you feel completely absorbed in the blood-deep colors and visuals of Neon Demon. Its masterful framing and careful attention to focus makes the actors stand out and blend in all at once in every scene. Elle Fanning plays Jessie, a hopeful 16-year-old girl who has come to LA in hopes of making money off the only talent she claims to possess: beauty. Slowly but surely, the deer-in-headlights stare of innocent Jessie devolves into gazes of assured ego and power as she succeeds where her senior models fail. We tag along with Jessie into a story of uncomfortable and soulless surrealism, with a turn of events that can only be seen to be believed. Chris Rodley described David Lynch's work as producing a disturbing unfamiliarity in the evidently familiar. I feel the same can be said for Winding's sickly satirical look at modeling in this day and age. From the get-go, Jessie is slapped with scornful and snide remarks about her beauty and social standing by experienced models, but it never feels over the top or unconvincing. You feel as though these models are vipers who are on the verge of striking out at Jessie as their envy builds through the film and reaches disturbing levels. And the fact that all of these events are happening to a 16-year-old girl only adds to your discomfort as you unknowingly squirm in your seat. Despite the heights of dread and unforgettably morbid imagery Neon Demon reaches, it never feels out of our reality. Just like Lynch's Blue Velvet, Neon Demon digs deep into a familiar element of culture and society and shows us the nightmares it hides under its plastic smile. A film that had me laughing from start to finish, Hunt for the Wilderpeople is one of the best coming-of-age comedies I've seen. Ricky Baker, played by the charming young actor Gillian Dennison, teams up with Hank, played by Sam Neill in his best performance since Jurassic Park or In the Mouth of Madness, for an adventure through the Australian outback in an unforgettable comedy of errors that escalates to unbelievable heights. What We Do in the Shadows director Taika Waititi has created his masterpiece, with regards to excellent comedic timing, visual gags that keep the cinematography creatively fresh, and hilariously simple dialogue.
I hate you.
Well, I hate you too.
I hope you die.
Me too.
May as well just kill me now. Don't kill me.
Despite its lack of attention or publicity, I was lucky enough to see this one-of-a-kind hidden treasure of a movie, and I hope more people are able to discover its charm and uniquity in the future. Other than that, the only thing I can say about it is, watch it as soon as you can. This movie is everything. A bizarre examination of freedom and insecurity and hope and humanity. It's a celebration of life and death and love and loss. The versatile Paul Dano plays Hank, a young man stranded on an island who encounters a corpse washed ashore, played by Daniel Radcliffe, in his best performance ever, and what follows is a wonderful adventure that left me smiling all the way through. Radcliffe's corpse is essentially a newborn baby who Dano has to nurture and reteach everything to regarding life life and all of its social expectations. A lesson that reveals all the questionable fallacies within the way we interact with each other on a superficial basis. Because of this, the movie is not the laugh-a-minute riot that I expected. It's a movie with a passionate story and real characters with so much heart, and I am very thankful to the directors for taking their concepts seriously. Regarding music, I would have said that the Neon Demon score is my favorite of the year, but goddamn it, Swiss Army Man took its place. Its entire soundtrack consists of composers Andy Hull and Robert McDowell vocalizing over one another, as well as featuring the voices of Dano and Radcliffe, creating a warm and ever-present atmosphere of friendly voices in your head. It is one of the most unique and unforgettable movies I have ever seen, and anyone who doesn't treat themselves to it are doing a great disservice to their own imagination. Stay away from the familiarity of safe sequels and adaptations, and support the strange. Support the different. Support the creative. Support the farting corpse of Daniel Radcliffe.